I don't know, I feel like I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole with Style Savvy. It's been about 16 years since the release of the very first Style Savvy on Nintendo DS, and I thought it would be cool to do a retrospective on it, like just because it has been so impactful to the world of dress-up games. I really wanted to analyze Style Savvy as a game, but also give a little bit of a retrospective about like the time that it was released in 2009. And I don't know, I feel like I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole with Style Savvy. So I actually just recently played it. I've only played Style Savvy Trendsetters, but I thought it'd be cool to just like focus on the very first Style Savvy game. But before I get started, my name is Delaney. I love talking about video games, and if you want to hear me yap, then like and subscribe. And also thank you so much to the members that are supporting the channel as well. So let's get started. All right, y'all. Style Savvy released in 2009. Well, technically released in 2009 in the United States, but 2008, I believe it's 2008 in like Japan. Playing through Style Savvy, especially as a person who has majored in fashion design and who has lived through that era and just like all of the fashion media that I consumed during that time, I thought it would be cool to talk about like the year Style Savvy was released and what was going on before I get into like the gameplay. During that time in the fashion world, we were going through a recession. What I find so interesting about the core of the gameplay of Style Savvy is that you yourself start out working in a boutique, then you work your way up to having your own boutique, and you do fashion competitions and things to like get recognition. You also have to cater to your customers and make sure your customers are happy with their choices and also following their budget. So you are merchandising as well and working with brands to be able to bring those items into your store so that you have a variety of things for your customers to look at. So what I think is interesting about like the core mechanics of Style Savvy is that during 2009 we were pretty much like in the dregs of a recession. Like recession was like from 2007 2009, and during this time a lot of people weren't shopping as much.
The world now, the level of economic uncertainty is probably without parallel in my lifetime.
As the shows drew to a close, industry players were looking at the upcoming season with hesitation. Recent economic turmoil had led to a lack of consumer confidence, which was beginning to take its toll on the fashion business.
Fashion world was kind of in an up and turnaround. I was actually like kind of diving into a few of like fashion articles during that time in like fashion media. A lot of people in the fashion industry talks about how their customer was shopping differently during this time, how they wanted more pieces that were like pieces that were forever pieces that were more statement pieces and that they could rewear. But also during this time there was a lot of fun and bold colors. The runway was a lot more emphasized. I had to be a little bit more playful, trying to lean more into the fantasy of fashion. Fashion has always just been about an escape. Big point during this time was this was before we had the influencer time period. So during this time we had a lot of bloggers, fashion bloggers. One I think that is most prominent to mention because she was 13 years old at this time was Tabby Givenson. She started a blog and then she began rubbing elbows with the fashion elite on runways. Her and other bloggers were invited to fashion shows so they can talk about them on their blogs, and this was like a very big part, a very big like renaissance of the fashion industry during that time. The regular people could be included into the fashion industry and be able to give their opinions. So okay, that's my talking point about 2009, about what was happening, so you guys have an understanding of like how I'm going to connect this. Okay, with all of this in mind, we have Style Savvy, and let's say okay, Style Savvy was probably, you were young, you were a child during this time, you were la-di-da-di-da-dying while your parents were probably trying to figure out how they're gonna keep their house. Insert the Nintendo DS Style Savvy. And what I think is so interesting about Style Savvy is that it was kind of like leans into like that fantasy of like being in the fashion industry, but also it gives you like an aspiration. You as a kid are aspiring to dream big, dream of owning your own boutique someday. The gameplay for me I just found so interesting because because it kind of has a good reference point for all of the core concepts of fashion and being in the fashion industry. Like when it comes to the business side, I feel like a lot of people reference Style Savvy as a dress-up game, but from my standpoint, when I play it, it gives me like less of like a dress-up game, more like a business sim. You're running your own boutique. You are trying to like make sure you get your daily sales in and making sure your customers are happy, but you also have to have that knowledge of like all the different brands, which I think is like so interesting that it kind of reminds me a lot of like when I was studying in fashion design. We were like very much told that you need to be checking magazines, you need to be checking for all kinds of media to be able to like be in the know about what is in and what is out. And that's what I really like the concept, like when it comes to the gameplay of Style Savvy, how they have like all these different reference points that are very prominent in the fashion industry. That's when I realized that Style Savvy is just so important. I always reference this review in particular where someone is really like, do we really need Style Savvy? And it always makes me like so upset, like realizing how important Style Savvy is in the landscape of things when it comes to teaching us as kids about the workings of the fashion industry and owning our own boutique. I think it's just so important, especially considering like a lot of like, as I've mentioned before, like in past videos, girly pop games sometimes are deemed shovelware, but I really think that there's something so important and interesting about Style Savvy and the way that it sets itself up like gameplay wise, because it does make you kind of see the fashion world. It is usually seen as like something frivolous, like, oh, why are you shopping, like why are you buying clothes, like how you present yourself in the world matters. So like after all of that with the gameplay, I just find that like the effect that Style Savvy has had on like dress up genre in general, like there have been several Style Savvies after that one. I really just love the messaging of Style Savvy and has able to capture the essence of like the fashion industry and put that into a game, especially something that's as accessible to kids. And now me actually as an adult playing and realizing like how amazing the gameplay loop is that the devs was able to create this game, kind of like a time capsule of the fashion industry of 2009. And it is just so interesting to see how they're able to like develop it and make it accessible to kids as well. Those are that's my like retrospective on Style Savvy and how it connects to the real world as a fashion. But you guys let me know, what do you think of Style Savvy and how do you feel like it has impacted you as well? So let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, I hope that you're doing well as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.